One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. So let me be free. From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. A metal mayhem that will never die. With engines roaring, he paves his way. A legend in the making, day by day.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Man, do we have a lot of propaganda to go through today. We've got to let you guys know what is propaganda and what is not. So first, let's go ahead and discuss the title first. Iran war escalates as well as U.S. bases attacked, as well as Trump targets Iran, of course. All right, so let me go ahead and give you guys the chronological breakdown of what we're going to be discussing first, and then we'll talk about the attack on the bases. First, we're going to be looking at Texas flood, fatal flooding. Guadalupe River crested at 37 feet. And it looks like there are people that have actually lost their lives during this. So I think that there's going to be some governmental officials coming out and speaking out on it. And then we have U.S. vows to further, quote unquote, degrade Iranian military capabilities on 6th day of strikes. Now, this is from yesterday, by the way, just so you guys know. We're leading ourselves up into today, which would be the 7th day. And then we've got a primetime speech from Trump yesterday. We're not going to play the whole thing. We're actually going to just play a highlight, probably about 5 minutes worth. But Trump says he is declassifying, releasing, quote, critical election interference intel. Now, I've got some things that I want to say about this as well. But first, we got also next after that, Trump looks towards midterm after primetime address on election security, which is an obvious, I guess. U.S. strikes Iranian tower. Iran claims deadly attack on U.S. base in Syria. Now, that is actually what we have on the thumbnail is this right here. Like as if they actually did hit our base and fucked it up or some, shit. But that didn't happen. There's just claims that that was happening. So I just want to be, honest about that. And then we have Iran-U.S. conflict, drone planes used in combat. We actually have the video of that. So the United States is definitely ramping it up for damn sure. All right. Quickly, before we get into the madness this morning, let's do our call to actions, and then we'll get into the craziness. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. I very much appreciate it, and it's free to do so. You know what else is free is hitting that subscribe button. This is what we do Monday through Friday, and then, of course, we have members only on Saturday morning, man. It's a good time. Now, speaking of members, please consider becoming a member starting only at $4.99 a month, making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody, but check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as be on these, have these lights on. So thank you guys for becoming members and staying members. Little side note here, follow my Instagram at BallValveTV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time, breaking news, as well as politics, all that great shit. It's a great way to get a hold of me one-on-one. And we also have a Discord server for you legends where we actually break down each and every, basically minute-by-minute plays of, basically warfare. All of that is in the breaking news segment of the Discord. So make sure you guys join up on that. It's the video down in the description down below is where the invite link is for the Discord. And last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys would like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, we have these platforms that are scrolling around the screen at any time. You can donate to those. And, of course, I get 100% of the proceeds. And, of course, we'll also read out loud anything that comes our way, just like a normal super chat. So we've got our email up. We'll always be scanning. All right. Good morning to all you legends, man. We got a lot to discuss this morning, whether it be on these attacks, whether it be on Trump and talking about yesterday regards to election, the integrity of the elections, and also the claims that he made of the proof that he's got. But we've got a lot of things to discuss on that before we just claim it as so. Real quick, we got Motobomb Virginia. Good morning to you as well. We got Easy Frank. Good morning to you. We got Charles Darwin from Down Under. Good morning, kind sir. We got Brother Bill Castle. Yes, sir. Good morning to you. And he says it's going to be a fan-fucking-tastic day. I agree with you, kind sir. Happy Felony Friday to everybody, by the way. We got my man Virginia Chaos in the building as well. Always appreciate you. Steve Posey. Yes, sir. Good morning. As well as Rabbit of Chaos and Vanguard Critters. We got Brother Gary in the building. Quick Shoe, my man. Good morning. We got Mr. Jack Telcott. Yes, sir. Blessings to you. Always appreciate you. We got King Adam, my man. It's been a minute. Great to see you in the chat. I always appreciate you. We got Bill Hicks as well. With Bingo Hicks this time. I like that name change. Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat, my man. Running our way down fast as humanly possible. Got Miss Lotus in the building as well as Prez. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, man. We got a lot to discuss. Yes, Charles Darwin, 37 feet. I don't know if you go by our U.S. metrics of feet. You're like, how many centimeters is that? We got Charlie Rose. Good morning to you. Let's see. We got TNT as well. Good morning. Trying not to skip anybody, I promise. We got Brother Glare. Yes, sir. Good morning. And Virginia Chaos gifting out a membership this morning. Already to start it off. Thank you very much, kind sir. Not only helping me, but someone else in the IWF. Thank you for that. We got Frogzilla. Good morning. I always appreciate you guys. OG Steve Easy says, I didn't see Trump's speech last night. Yeah, no, I know. I hear you on that. I did watch it. And he made some claims. And then, of course, I did the digging, right? That's what we do around here. So we'll get into those discussions as soon as we get to those topics on our chronological timeline. So first, let's get into Texas. Fatal flooding, Guadalupe River crested at 37 feet. Let's go ahead and bring that up first, and then we'll get into all the other matters.
Go out to their coverage right now. They are talking about flooding concerns in Kerr County. Let's listen in.
Already lit up, and the emergency services got here and said, oh, everybody's already out. Okay, so, and then they moved on, which was a validation of this entire system. You know, like I said, new technology, real world.
What's up, Lolly? Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat. Happy Felony Friday to everybody.
World tragedy avoided within its first year of use, so we're very proud of that.
These were just installed, what, 3 months ago?
3 months ago, yes.
In real world, showing it in real life early this morning.
That's right.
And we did start, we're going to walk over there and show you the one that is still up, but we did start with this one just to give you an idea of how much water and how quickly that water moved and how much force was behind it, because how much concrete
That's
is
right. There's 3 foot of concrete underneath that. You can probably see it on the camera. There's 240 pounds of concrete. It pulled it out of the ground. Now, it's to be said that was, you know, an hour or two after it had done its job, but the water was still rising at that stage. At that stage, it had done its job. We lost the equipment. Okay, we're going to come back, reinstall that ASAP so that it's ready to go for the next flood.
Awesome. Okay, let's then walk to the one that is still standing. It's right over here. There, like you said, there were 6 of them. And
what's up, No Grow? Good morning.
This one went off too. You're going to see us walk, and it's a good ways away and a good ways from.
Now, I guess you know, this is just a little byproduct of the craziness that's happening with you know, Texas fatal floodings over there. But literally, they are fatal. There has been people that have died already from this flood.
The river, but the water got that high, and that is, it hit all the way up here to alert people.
Exactly, yeah. So the parking lot up here was inundated in water last night. You can see these 3 towers along here. It goes off as a unit, off as a system. 6 towers along here. You know,
he's got an interesting accent.
Crazy loud, lights up the entire area. Like I said, lights up the danger on the other side, and you know, your viewers can see videos on our.
You know what's crazy though is how people actually die in it. That always kind of surprises me, you know, like people dying in floods. I mean, the only way that I really can understand that is if like they were sleeping or something like that, and then all of a sudden it just pours into their house or something. But people actually dying in it, it is amazing.
River Century website or on the Fox News channel as well.
And I saw you fixing this earlier.
Damn, Blair even said one of the rivers crested at 38. Damn.
Talk to me, what goes into this to make sure that it's ready to go for the next time?
Oh, for sure. So first of all, the technology is really simple. We kept this really simple when we
This is what we
designed it.
need.
Resiliency is one of our things that we keep in mind. We've all got backgrounds in the military and aviation and all this kind of stuff where redundancy matters a lot. It's 8-foot aluminum tower. In the bottom, there is water witch switches, which are the same ones that are used.
How can somebody not swim though? You know, I'm going to be honest about that. Like people say that they can't swim. Why can't you swim? Are you serious? You can't swim? I got one leg and I can still swim circles around you motherfuckers. Literally.
In the bilges of the Coast Guard boats for the last 50 years, so they're extremely resilient. They don't have a failure rate. When our engineers asked us how many will we put in, we said 2. They said we're crazy because you don't need 2, and we said 2 for redundancy. On the front of it over here, we've got the 2 speakers, which are the same.
Are those their alarm speakers?
It's 124s that are used in emergency vehicles.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're extremely loud. On the top, we've got the same lights that are used.
What the hell? It is an alarm system.
On a fire engine to light up an area when an evacuation is happening. So water is detected down the bottom, sirens, lights go off, red light down the back, and the audio from it is something that you would never expect to hear in the hill country, especially it's the Bagram air raid siren. There's verbal commands over it saying flood danger, run to higher ground, and then
Yeah, but Lolly, that's as if like the way that you're explaining it is like as if it were like an actual white river or whatever they call those rushing rivers or something. And sure, I can imagine that there are parts of storms that you're going to have that where floods are, I mean, raging, but a lot of the times it's just still water, you know, it's just high levels of water that, I mean, I've seen plenty of video of it.
repeats for a 6-minute cycle and then lights up the whole area. And as the water keeps coming up, it keeps repeating itself to make sure that everybody gets out of the way. These towers did not, we came down here this morning to check, to recertify, to make sure they're good to go in case another flood came in the next few hours.
Now, these rivers, of course, these where we're specifically talking about in the rivers, those are going to be moving quick for damn sure. And if people are getting caught up in the river, why are you going out to the river, man? Stay out of that shit.
The good news is that they're even more resilient than what we gave them credit for, because we opened them up, checked all the components in it. Batteries are still good. Water witch switches are still good. No debris clogging it up. No corrosion in any way, shape, or form. These things are good to go for the next flood, be it tonight or be it in 10 years' time.
Amazing.
Damn.
This is somewhat of a personal mission for you. Talk to me about.
So, wow. Did he's the one that put these up? These alarm systems?
From last year, why you decided to then work with this company and get this going.
For sure.
Oh, I see. So he must be like a resident or something like that and wanted to knew that this is a flood zone. So why wouldn't we have precautions to let people know, hey, if it's coming down, we've got a way to let you know.
Yeah, we, after last year's tragedy down here in Ingram and the broader Kerr County, I was working for Dell Technologies at the time. I was a vice president there. And I got a phone call from a friend of mine, Ian Cunningham, and he called me up and he said, listen, this is unacceptable. We have to do something about this, and I have an idea for a product. Can you help me bring it to market? So, of course, I did what everybody does, and I gave up my job, dropped down tools, and we went off on an adventure to try and figure out how could we build the most resilient flood technology out there. And when we looked at past floods, they all have, common things. The power grid goes down, the cell phone service goes down, all that kind of stuff. We can't rely on any of that.
I really fucking like this guy. I like that he is an advocate for his community and went out there and then actually, it sounds like either created or collaborated with this company to get these out here. Whether he made them or not is kind of irrelevant, but I'm glad that he took those measures for his community, man. That shows somebody that actually cares. So W this guy.
We've got to come up with a brand new technology using resilient components that are tried and tested and proven, and just put them together in a new formula.
And it looks like that it's the way that he worded it is like the first thing that happens, power grid goes down, then cell service goes down or whatever. So it sounds like he's got a way of powering these things, probably by solar or something like that.
We showed it to the camps down here in this area. We said, would this have prevented last year's tragedy?
Yeah, that's right, Carrie. I respect a person that actually executes. I think, honestly, there's a ton of people that will come up with these amazing ideas and then not execute it. Like, tell me how dumb that would be to come up with a great idea and then not execute it. But you know what's odd about it? That's most Americans for you right there, is the lack of execution. So I like this guy. Anyways, W this guy. We're going to move on. I just wanted to highlight that real quick. The guy really went out above and beyond, man, and I appreciate that. We got Seymour Cannabis. Good morning, kind sir. And we got Jamie Lindsay in the building as well, saying good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right, let's get into this next story here. We have to. U.S. vows to further, quote-unquote, degrade Iranian military capabilities on sixth day of strikes. Now, this was yesterday, by the way. We're leading up into today. And trust me, we have a lot to discuss on fact-checking what the Iranian state media was putting out and what Trump put out yesterday in regards to his speech. So, anyways, first this.
You're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. A live look at the Strait of Hormuz, courtesy of Marine Traffic. The U.S. military saying that they carried out the 6th consecutive night of strikes in Iran. The United States intensifying its strikes against Iran in the past 24 hours, saying that they hit targets farther north and firing into a ship that the U.S. accused of trying to break its naval blockade on Iran. Iran then retaliated by launching missiles and drones at U.S. allies in the region and warned that it may escalate its attacks. Let's check in with Professor Alon Burstein of the Israel-Palestine Report. He's here with me. Alon, always love bringing you on when we hear of strikes happening in parts of the world that I'm not quite familiar with.
We love this guy, by the way.
Not quite familiar with. It says northern Iran. They struck more north. I'm assuming we don't have too many details about that.
We do have a little bit of details. Tehran being one of the areas targeted, but there was like 2 or 3 other locations up in northern Iran that were also targeted.
Now, but in general, what part of the country is that? What might they be firing at?
Thank you for having me, Austin. I'm literally looking down on my phone because there's reports coming in right now about potential attacks, but nothing confirmed at the moment. I will say that according to reports that have come out in Iran, the majority of attacks that have been going on in this 5th or 6th wave, depending on how we count, have still been centered relatively in the southern parts of Iran. What is interesting is that the United States tried over the last 24 hours to escalate its attacks, very, very blatantly sending a message to Iran, blatantly saying this is going to keep on building up. It's a little unclear what the United States is demanding. On the one hand, it's demanding that Iran return to the negotiation table. On the other hand, the Trump administration has said that Iran is begging for a deal. So if they are begging for a deal, are we going to negotiate? How is that happening? But what is clear is the range of attacks that the United States have carried out over the last 24 hours have been escalatory in everything, in their target.
And real quick, I get a couple of questions from people who are like, how do you get Iranian state, TV and straight IRGC news? How are you doing that? Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to show you how far a motherfucker will go to make sure that we're getting whatever side is reporting on what, because I don't want to rely on the United States media to correspond and let us know what Iranian state media is saying. I want to know exactly, because I know both sides are full of shit, okay? And so I've actually joined a Telegram group. Well, I guess it is a group of basically the IRGC kind of thing. And not really, but like from the people that report media and stuff like that. And it's very interesting watching both sides lie their ass off. It's great. It's crazy. But on the military front, we're not lying on any of those things, by the way. Well, we haven't lied too much in the actual recent. In the recent, we haven't said anything that wasn't necessarily true. We did do exactly what we did on a military level. So that's because we're actually fucking out there hammering them right into the dirt.
Packages in the levels of bombings and
all their equipment, all their shit.
To illustrate, most of the attacks that we have been carrying out from the United States over the last 4 or 5 days have concentrated in the area of the Strait of Hormuz for obvious reasons. That's what the United States has been trying to signal, that it is going to enforce its blockade and Iran does not control it. So we've had most attacks in Bandar Abbas and in Qeshm Island.
That's what I was poking at earlier, Steve Posey. And the answer is actually no, I don't. I still swim straight.
and in a bunch of areas, Syriac, around this area. What has happened in the last 24 hours is, first of all, the target packages in these areas have changed. all of a sudden we have seen attacks in Bandar Abbas that are including bridges, which we know is very important to Trump. He said specifically that attacking these bridges and power plants was going to be the next level. So we had attacks against bridges in Bandar Abbas, some very important bridges connecting to the Shiraz area. Then we had some very, very powerful attacks that happened in Kish Island over here, still in the area of the Gulf. But what's important about that is that we attacked an airport. The United States attacked an airport and specifically power plants.
I'm glad that he is pointing that out.
There's reports that in Kish.
Okay, now that's a big deal. Hold on, I didn't hear about power
About
plants.
that is that we attacked an airport. The United States attacked an airport and specifically power plants. There's reports that in Kish Island there is a power outage. And in terms
there's reports of
the
power
attacks that were
outages.
reported that happened further north, I think the operative word there is.
And he's still showing in the southern region. He'll move up into the northern here soon when he was talking about when the host of Live Now asked him about the northern strikes. I'm sure that he's going to show the 3 or 4 cities or the locations up there in northern Iran that were attacked.
Further, because I haven't seen any reports, not from the United States, but also not from forces on the ground in Iran, talking about attacks in northern Iran. But what we have seen is attacks further north in this area. And here also, in the area of Ahvaz, over here, we had an attack.
Yeah, she must have had a good drinking night or something. I don't know. I'm just bullshitting. Hopefully she's doing well.
A train station, a train compound that the United States has said is not a civilian target. It is used by the IRGC. And we also had attacks that occurred, I'm not actually finding it on the map, I think it's over here, attacks that occurred against the area that is known as Bustan. It is a city that also the United States has attacked a power plant in that region. There were reports that air defense units have been operated in Tehran, the capital, up here. There's been absolutely no reports of anything being bombed and no reports of the United States that it hit anything in Tehran. So I don't know.
Exactly. And that's something that was hard for us as well on our side. That's why when all the strikes I've been breaking in the breaking news segment of Discord has been more of the southern region by the coastline of the Strait of Hormuz. And so when the 3 areas that were reported that the United States struck, we didn't actually get any information out of what was struck particularly. So I was actually hoping that he would know.
In Tehran this past 24 hours or not. But when I've seen further north, what I'm seeing is pushing further north into here and attacking different targets around here and Bushara over here, and mostly seeing the United States sending a message. We're going to start attacking.
That's very not true, by the way. Just so you know, that's a total myth.
Attacking trains, airports, bridges, power plants, and we're moving slowly away from the Gulf, further in, and I think this is all meant as a pressure building mechanism. The United States is still hoping that we'll come to a deal. One last thing I'll say, it's important to remember that before we got to the ceasefire in April, what we were leading up to was Trump's repeated threats. The United States was going to wipe out all the power plants and all the bridges. And he declared power plant day and bridge day.
Now, what we did do is yesterday we did hit 5 different bridges. I actually put it in the Discord. Let me actually pull up Discord on because I usually don't have Discord running while I'm streaming because I hate the alerts and all that stuff so that you guys don't have to hear it and stuff. But let me go ahead and bring this up and show you exactly what I'm talking about with the bridges because I have it broken down in the Discord actually. Let me pull this up. Give me a second to like make this full screen or whatever. And then I've got to switch back over to you guys. A second here. Share screen. And breaking news. Okay. You guys should be able to see this now. Let me double check. Okay, you guys can. Okay, so this is inside the Discord, everybody. I just have it under as breaking news. And that's where you guys can see where I'm putting a lot of Iranian state TV reports. I'm giving out United States reports. I'm giving out Associated Press, Reuters, whatever. But a lot of this, it does come out minute by minute by the group that I'm actually in of communicators regarding this whole war. So let me show you the bridge that we're talking about here. There's 5 bridges actually. So let's see. I'm trying to look for it right now. Okay, so this is images of, so the video images of airstrikes on 2 bridges. I'll bring this up. Give me a sec. And let me go ahead and put the volume on too. And let me hide this. There we go. That's one of the bridges. Now, these bridges are very important to Bandar Abbas, which is their #1 port in the country, really. But that's right there in the strait, in the very choke point, the tip top of the choke point of the strait. Okay, let me see if there's any other. There is not. Okay, so that's just one bridge out, because when it originally came out, it was reported that 2 bridges were struck. And then there was updates on this that I followed up on. I said, Iranian state media, the number of victims in the attack on the bridges in those areas has risen to 3 people. 9 people were injured in the attack. Traffic of the Bandar Abbas Lar Highway in the vicinity of Bandar Kamir has resumed, but it is moving slowly. And then there was more updates, further updates on the U.S. attack on southern bridges. 5 bridges hit. And then what bridges were attacked here? I can't pronounce these fucking bridges. Garvea Bridge, route connected to Bandar Abbas and Kamir and Lar. Bridge after the village of Latidan and Calmeto. I'm whatever. Route return from Bandar Abbas, Kamir and Lar. 2 bridges of on the Kevinstan Lar route. Partially completed bridge, Axis connecting Bandar Kamir. So it's a lot of the area in the port. Those are very special and neat. Those are bridges that are very important to all of the port. And then there was another update, I think. No, that was the latest. That was the latest on that particular aspect of bridges and stuff. Okay, so let me go and get back into this. And why is it still sharing? There we go. All right, now let's go ahead and get back into this real quick.
Was going to happen, and all of a sudden, a day before that, we had the ceasefire. I think Trump is probably gambling that similarly.
What's up, Mr. Al Patterson? Good morning to you, kind sir.
In that
Happy Felony Friday.
Direction may bring Iran back to coming to some sort of deal, maybe something more what the administration would like to see.
You know, I think another question people have, the U.S. military says they're continuing to carry out strikes in an effort to, quote, further degrade Iranian military capabilities. They've been saying this night in and night out. What do we know about what is actually left of Iran's military capabilities?
So the message, I would argue, is being made deliberately vague, because ultimately,
yes, I don't tell you guys to like send in money or any of that shit, but I do ask you guys to hit that like button. Double tap that screen. You guys don't have to like all the craziness that's happening around the world. Of course not. But you guys can like it for me and what we're doing here on Insane Wheels. So thank you for that. Let's get the likes up.
If we look, first of all, what the Trump administration cares about when it comes to domestic politics, right? Most people in the United States don't really care if you attack this ship or this city. So at the end of the day, that's a blanket statement. And by the way, the United States is not alone in that. Israel very similarly says it attacks, you and I've said countless times, terror infrastructure of Hezbollah and Hamas. What is that? It's a way to say we attack military targets and don't ask any more questions. So that's just the first thing that's important to note. The United States has such a big range of military targets.
Listen, man, Steve, it's funny because there's times that I catch myself where I'm like in my house on the couch, smoking a little bit of that left-handed tobacco, having a drink or whatever, and I just nonstop research this shit. Nonstop. I'm watching shit break on these Telegram groups. I'm watching all this minute by minute play. And then of course I'm double checking everybody else's reports on these things, because a lot of it's bullshit. So most of what actually comes out, I don't report, because most of it from both sides are kind of bullshit.
Targets that still exist in Iran. This could be anything from
Mr. Al Patterson gifting out a membership, by the way. I can't thank you enough for that. Helping out not only me, but helping out someone in the IWF, my man. Thank you for that.
Missile launching pads, areas that they use to launch drones in the area of the Straits of Hormuz, ports that are used for the smaller IRGC boats. The main Iranian fleet may have been...
the Mosquito fleet. We've talked about that many of times, and we have done a number on the Mosquito fleet, because that's really what they had on what they could manned equipment. That was something that is a nuisance to the United States. It is.
Destroyed, but the IRGC maintains a massive fleet of small boats, and all it takes is 2 people with a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher, and they can disable an oil tanker. And again, we're back
And
to
he's right,
the
what he
Strait of
just
Hormuz
said.
being closed. So there's so many targets that could fall under the category of carrying out strikes to degrade Iran's military capabilities, that really it is impossible to know. When they say that, all I take from that is that the United States is carrying out strikes that are aimed to weaken Iran's ability to threaten the straits. It could be anything from rocket producing sites, drone launch.
Yes, and I'll show you exactly the locations that he's talking about, all the different strikes that are important, what we've been really targeting for the last 7 days. So let me go ahead and move over to my map here quickly. Okay, there we go. So majority of the strikes that we have been doing have been obviously Bandar Abbas, and little locations outside of not only Qasem Island has also been struck, but inside of just these internal coastline little cities or whatever. Sirik has been a topic of strikes as well. But one of the interesting locations that we've been discussing in southern Iran is we've been repeatedly hitting this area as well, basically every night. We actually struck a police station here for them of the city of Tis. I think it's on the right side. Yeah. If it's not on this side, it's obviously going to be on this side. But either way, it's right here in this bay. And there's a lot of chaos. We're striking this area a lot right now in southern Iran. But then there was reports of us doing some strikes up in Tehran somewhere, but I haven't heard, and neither did Homeboy that's reporting. He hasn't heard of any actual outcome of these strikes. And then there was a couple of other cities like up here that were also struck. So that was really it, in that aspect, that there was no report on those northern, like actually what happened there. They just said, CENTCOM said, we struck that. Okay, well, how did it go? Right? So anyways, back to this. Sorry.
Areas, a port, a power plant, any of these things are part of what Iran uses as
You good
an
out there, Glare?
overwhelming
Appreciate you.
chain in order to carry out military activities in the Strait of Hormuz.
Trump is having a primetime address tonight. He'll be talking at 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes, and we
6
already
p.m.
know
Pacific
about
time.
that. And he doesn't say anything about Iran, by the way. So let me go ahead and see if there's any other reports that they bring up during this topic of discussion. It looks like they did briefly here. What is this? Whatever
Because
it is, I don't
Iran's
see it.
leadership has been assassinated by and large.
Yeah, we know that.
Rosa, we appreciate the
There we
detailed
go.
question that
Oh, okay. They're sending in questions. I thought it was a report. My bad. It's hard to tell when I'm just scanning, going through these. Okay, here we go. We're gonna move into a little bit of a highlight of yesterday's speech by Trump. Trump says he is declassifying, releasing critical election interference intel. Now, first, I'm going to let him discuss this, and then I'm going to show how factual this is. Okay, so here we go. Let me go ahead and bring this up.
America is back and doing really well, but we still have a major challenge that must be urgently addressed because no country could be great without fair and honest elections. You have to trust your country, because if there can be no trust,
Oh, you be good. No,
there
no.
can be no greatness. And that's very simple. No trust, no greatness. For many years, I've called for bold, swift, and decisive action to protect the integrity of America's elections. Every American deserves to know that when they cast their vote, that vote will be counted accurately in a system, and that is to make that system secure. One where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard. Tonight, I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure. This evidence shows that the election system we have dangerously exposes, and really exposes like levels never thought possible, to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you, the American people, our beautiful, our great American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House Government Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings we are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov.
And by the way, guess who went to whitehouse.gov to go look at this document? Ding, ding, ding.
Go check it out.
I did check it out.
Disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China has signed a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are...
Real quick, I got to give a big special shout out to Mr. Al Patterson in the building, sending in a 5 spot on Cash App saying puff, puff, pass. Well, my man, thank you for making it rain in the Cash App. Thank you for
releasing. Reveals that members of the deep state...
Road Reality, good morning.
Very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible. U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, they did not inform Congress. In fact, all they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our...
Damn, Charlie Rose, when did that happen?
country.
Just now?
A standard, very pat line that was divvied out to say. The cover-up of this colossal security breach is even more disturbing in light of the additional information showing that China engaged in other election-related activities to undermine my first administration and our 2020 campaign.
Okay, so in the regards to this, there is some damning evidence, and there's also a little bit of a stretch of a truth as well. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring this up. I'm going to actually show you, because not only did I read the documents myself, but then what I started doing is I started bouncing the shit with AI. So anyways, I gave the actual link to AI, and I said, I want you to go through this kind of thing. And it says, yes, I found the White House page and looked through the publishing tonight. At this point, the answer is no. Nothing on this page by itself conclusively proves widespread election cheating. It lays out a series of claims and links to documents collections, which were zip files, which I also went through. But those claims still need the underlying evidence to be independently examined and authenticated. Now, here is the breakdown of the major sections. Election voting machines. The White House states that the intelligence assessments show Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and others have the capability to compromise election infrastructure. It also says centralized voter databases are vulnerable to cyber attack, which is a bad, that's a big problem, actually. And what this does prove is foreign governments have cyber capabilities. U.S. intelligence has long viewed election infrastructure as a cyber target, and it is. But what it does not prove is that vote totals were actually altered, that any U.S. election result was successfully changed. Capability is not the same as evidence of a successful attack. And number 2 on this, China obtaining voter data. The page alleges China obtained data on roughly 220 million voters, American voters, and created a unit of exploit that information. If accurate, that would be a significant cyber security breach. However, voter registration databases are largely public records in many states. Even if China possessed voter information, that alone is not evidence votes were changed or fraudulent ballots were counted. Those are two separate questions. Now, getting into Michigan, this is probably the strongest factual section of this whole thing. The page references an FBI investigation into alleged fraudulent voter registration activity in Michigan involving canvassers. I don't know how to say that properly. I'm just illiterate. Who allegedly submitted false registration forms and forged names. If the FBI documents support all those allegations, then that would be evidence of registration fraud and potentially criminal conduct by those involved. However, registration fraud does not equal fraudulent votes, though. Someone can submit fake registrations that are later rejected before the election day. Whether fraudulent ballots were actually cast is a separate question that would require additional evidence. Number 4, non-citizens on voter rolls. The White House claims DHS identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens registered to vote. Important distinction. Being registered does not automatically mean somebody voted illegally. To prove election fraud, investigators would generally need evidence that the person voted, the person was counted, or the vote was counted, and it was cast illegally. So is there proof of cheating? Not from the web page itself. The page contains claims, summaries, and links to supporting document collections. Whether those documents actually prove election fraud depends on what's inside of those and whether the evidence withstands independent scrutiny. As of tonight, major reporting organizations have reviewed exactly what we are talking about here, this document, and including Associated Press. That was them that reported on it as well. So on foreign cybersecurity, evidence of concern? Yes. Proof of outcome changing? No. China obtained voter data? Potentially, yes. Proof of anything outcome changing? No. Michigan registration fraud investigation? Yes, if FBI files support it and not by itself, but it would be worth the investigating. And then, of course, non-citizens on voter rolls is absolutely worth investigating, but it's still not proof that they voted illegally. So anyways, that is what I've got on that aspect. And I also went through the documents myself as well. So let me go ahead and bring up our next story here. Trump looks towards midterms after primetime address on election security. Of course, that is going to be one of the, that's his main concern, that and passing the Save America Act.
Good evening to you. You're watching live now from Fox. My name is Alexandra Goldberg. It's good to be with you tonight. We just heard an about 25-minute address to the nation by President Donald Trump, making that speech at prime time, talking about election security. We have political analyst Brian Sobel standing by for us. Brian, good evening to you. Thanks for joining us here on Live Now.
My pleasure.
So we have a lot to discuss tonight. Of course, a couple of main points that the president made about alleged interference by China, by the deep state, and also hundreds of thousands of non-citizens on American voter rolls, according to the president. Brian, I wanted to ask you, what was the biggest takeaway from this speech in your eyes?
Well, frankly, I think it was the penetration, potentially, of the CCP, the Chinese government and military apparatus, into our voter rolls, where they may have secured data of the many citizens of the United States. Now, whether they actually were able to affect the election, I think we're going to have to see these documents that the president refers to as they are being released, and we haven't seen them yet. But I think the biggest takeaway tonight was
I saw him.
Donald Trump calling out the Chinese and somewhat on the periphery, the Russians, the North Koreans, and the Iranians in an effort to sway elections. And why should we be surprised? We see other campaigns that these countries have in the United States. And so this one, where you go directly at voters, shouldn't surprise anybody.
And what's up,
Brian,
Pablo?
there was
Good
one
morning.
quote that stuck out to me right at the beginning of the speech. The president says that our election system, quote, falls catastrophically short when compared to other nations. What do you make of this sentiment? Do you agree with it?
You're going to see a lot of debate on that. It's one of these things where he was making a case really for the Save America Act, which is what he referred to late in his speech about providing ID before you vote, removing mail-in ballots and some other things that he thinks and other people think would increase the ability to keep countries like China from tampering with our voting. But when you think about the last 15 years, Alexandra, of data collection by rogue actors. Would it surprise anybody that they've worked really hard to somehow get on the inside of the voter data rolls and to see whether they can sway an election in the direction that they would like? Now, having said that, we're going to have to see the evidence. And I think there's going to be a lot of debate about what is found and what's going to be released. But if some of this information was suppressed because the people...
So I got a question for Steve Easy in particular, because he's following a certain thing that I want to clarify. So with the, I'm trying to look for your actual comment where you set it up here, right here. So were you referring to this where is there actual talks of the merge of the putting not only the Save Act, the Save America Act, but throw in where we're going to share national intelligence with Israel? Well, in particular, military, where we're going to merge our military intelligence. Is that what you're referring to? Let me know.
In 2020, felt like the American people either couldn't handle it or they had other reasons for not releasing it. That's not good.
Fuck.
Brian, I want to talk about the midterms, of course, just in a couple of months. Before we get to that, is the Republican Party united under this messaging?
No, I think there are a lot of Republicans who want to pass the SAVE Act, but it's hung up in the Senate right now. I don't think everybody's in agreement with all of the SAVE Act. Certainly Democrats aren't, but Republicans basically want to get in behind the president on this. But it does require some additional efforts by states at the ballot box. And that includes taking a look at somebody's ID before they vote.
So that's the particular bill that they were trying to pork fill this with their bullshit with this whole intelligence. Wow. Okay. Yeah. If they decide to throw that in there where they're voting on the Save America Act, but they're also including the whole sharing intelligence thing, yeah, that'd be a big reason to vote no on. We need to make sure that that doesn't happen.
And then guaranteeing that the people who come to vote are American citizens. And so you heard the president tonight talk about...
So a super, super, super rare W from the Democrats for shooting that part down. But still, they didn't vote it down for the same reasons that we're voting it down for. Or maybe they are.
How they've uncovered several 100,000, it sounds like, people on the voter rolls who are not American citizens. These kinds of things are issues that have to be cleaned up. Whether they affected any election materially is really the question. And we won't know that until we see the data and can sift through it and decide how much of it is opinion and how much of it is fact. I think the president could have eliminated this idea that the 2020 election, which he's been fighting about since 2020, and whether he was jobbed out of the presidency. I think we'll see. I mean, if you're going to clean up elections, which is a very laudable thing to want to do, I think you've got to leave some of these other issues out of the debate and just go at the information and prove that the Chinese have meddled, as an example. And what are you going to do about fixing things?
And again, what I also pointed out in the breakdown of the release of this document that went through, well, multiple documents, of course, but it is worth investigating. I always say, like, investigate the shit out of everything. You know what I mean? And try to figure out what the actual truth is, right? So real quick, we have a rapid response from Trump here, it looks like.
Decisions for themselves. Take a look here. This is a White House X account. This is a direct quote from the president saying, "Great damage has been done to our country. Our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost. This cannot be allowed to continue. Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair elections system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should not be a partisan issue." Brian, I'll bring you back in here. How are Democrats reacting to this?
Well, I think Democrats believe it's the president relitigating his loss in 2020. However, if they will take a fair look at the evidence, as we all will, and make our own decision, and then come out and say, hey, there's some smoke there. There's there's a problem. That would be, I think, in the best interest of the nation. And the idea that there may be vulnerabilities in our system, I don't think anybody can deny that. Of course there are. Why?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of vulnerabilities within our election process, of course. And I definitely am somebody that wants to make sure that we do make it secure and actually real, and it reflects the actual people. That's what I want it to do, for damn sure.
Would our election system be any different than our credit cards and everything else we're dealing with? Smart players who are data and tech savvy are way out ahead of some of us in terms of figuring out ways to change data in their own favor. And I think if the president had wanted to not get into the 2020 election again and just said, hey, I have found some major issues that we need to solve as a nation collectively, and it has nothing to do with me or 2020, I think that speech would be better accepted by Democrats, but we'll see. I think if Democrats are fair, and if they see the evidence, and if the evidence shows that there is a systemic problem, then he has to deal with it. And then one other thing, Alexandra, that's really important. I listened very carefully to what the president.
It's funny, Charles, is I grew up throwing boomerangs. I don't know why. I got gifted a boomerang when I was a kid. And so I used to throw that thing around all the time at the parks and shit.
He didn't necessarily say 2020 was totally rigged. He said it could have been rigged, in the sense, I'm paraphrasing, that the system was vulnerable. Doesn't mean that anything happened to such a scale that it affected the election. So, words matter. I think whoever helped him write the speech made that distinction pretty clear in his words, so that they could defend his feeling that there could have been wide-scale data changing in 2020, but maybe not, but maybe.
All right, we're going to go ahead and leave it at that. All right, we got to move on. And Slump says, LOL, what's the evidence? Well, I just went through the said evidence, and there wasn't direct evidence. But there is, by itself, it's not direct evidence. But is it worth investigating? Of course it is. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on into U.S. strikes Iranian tower. And then Iran claims deadly attack on U.S. base in Syria. Now, this is what I made as the thumbnail. This is what they were referring to. Right here was one of our bases over there in Syria. It's actually really close to the border of Iraq right there. But in that particular case, but Iran state media was making the claim like as if they decimated the place, right? Like they really struck and hit our base, but actually that was false as well. So I have that information for you guys. But first, let's go ahead and bring up the claim, see what they're saying, and then we'll see what's true and what's not, because I actually have the research on it. So
right now, I do want to get you to the latest coming in on the U.S.-Iran conflict, as of course, over the past several hours, there have been a lot of developments. Right now, I want to pop this up on your screen, a live look at this hour over the Strait of Hormuz, provided there by Marine Traffic, as Iran claims to have struck a U.S. Special Operations Command Center in Syria today. And while the U.S. has not yet responded to those claims, it was announced months ago, back in February, that
no,
the US
not
was
because it's worth looking into.
That specific
he actually put up the file, and I went through the file. Like I actually went through it, and I went through it with AI, did a whole bunch of shit. Yeah, of course, I'm saying it's worth looking into. Anything, it's not just because Trump said it. It's because he actually provided a document. Like, yeah, that's worth investigating.
Qatar also saying its residents are being told
Jesus
to seek shelter
Christ.
after
I can't believe you're that dense.
Fired at the country by
like, how do you remember to eat in the morning? You know what I mean?
Iran. Qatar, of course, has been a mediator between the U.S. and Iran amid the months-long conflict. In the meantime, the U.S.
Yes, and that's exactly why I investigated it. You fucking dense moron. I can't believe you're still alive.
Has
dude.
once again expanded its military operation against Iran, striking bridges and collapsing a tower at a key Iranian port. Iran also continuing.
Yeah, that was the worth me investigating part. Oh my God, I'm done talking to you. You know what I mean, dude? If you want to send me money, do that.
President Trump disputing that, saying the U.S. is the
otherwise,
true,
I'm just gonna ban you at this point.
International waterway. As always, a lot to discuss here, so I do want to bring in Adi Schwartz, academic and director of research at Misgov Institute. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And first off, I want to get your take here on all of this. As we have these developments that are taking place, we know that Iran is
Talk shit,
claiming that it
motherfucker, I
struck this
will.
U.S. location, saying even that there are injuries there. So I wanted to ask you kind of your thoughts, as we know that what Iran says isn't always necessarily the truth.
Yes, that is correct. We don't always know what is going on the field. Of course, Iran
Are you
has this
serious, Virginia
tendency,
Chaos?
or this
That's hilarious because of what you actually said in it. That's hilarious because you actually said that. I bet you that's what you said, and it's like, oh, let me hold that up.
past
Oh
to
shit!
try to produce propaganda. But I think that the bigger picture should be quite clear by now. I think that from Israeli perspective, but also from Middle Eastern, and in fact from the perspective of the international community, this is a bad regime. We're talking about a fundamentalist, revolutionary regime.
Oh, it went through.
Who's
Oh wait, no,
been,
that's not you. Oh my god, that is great. We got my man. We got my man Bud in the chat. By the way, he's chilling. He hasn't even shown himself. He just sends in money. He says, "Best nation is a donation. Ban the troll. $10 donation into the Cash App." Well, we can give him a mute. You know what I mean? Because you sent in $10, but I don't want to ban the guy. He didn't say no TOS shit. He was just being a troll in the moment. You know what I mean? But whatever. Anyways, my man, I can't thank you enough for that.
Causing trouble.
He goes by Family Life in the chat, by the way, when he pops up.
Not only for their own people. Remember that they massacred tens
There
of
he
thousands
is.
of people.
Oh, it's Uncle Fester.
In Iran,
yeah, I'm used to it. You saying in the old times, it's saying Family Life.
In Syria, in Lebanon, with Hezbollah, in Yemen, and just even in your reporting right now, you mentioned that people in Qatar are going into shelters. So these countries never attacked Iran. We've seen in the last couple of weeks and months that Iran is attacking all of its neighbors, all of its Arab neighbors, without any provocation. So I think by now it should be clear that all this trouble, imagine how many years are we trying, I mean, the international community is trying to negotiate with Iran this issue of nuclear weapon. Is it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? By this time, we should understand that the regime is pursuing a nuclear bomb, and I think the international community cannot afford to have Iran with a nuclear weapon. So I think that the bottom line is quite clear.
And I did want to ask you here when we talk about Qatar, because you mentioned that, and we
Yes, sir. And good morning to you, by the way. Happy Felony Friday. Great to see you in the chat. Hopefully you're enjoying your Friday so far. I definitely know that we are.
talked about it off the top, but it's important to note that barrage of missiles that was fired by Iran at Qatar. But I also mentioned that Qatar has been a mediator between the U.S. and Iran. So why would you fire there at the mediator? Again, not everything that Iran does makes any sense, but why would you fire at the mediator who's working to kind of make a deal happen?
I completely agree, but I think that from Iranian perspective, okay, so they tell themselves, we don't have a nuclear bomb. What is our best option? What is our nuclear option? And that is the Strait of Hormuz and the energy global market. So by shooting at UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Oman, all these countries, Kuwait, Bahrain, Iraq, all these countries producing or responsible for the energy market, this is their weapon. So, causing again the rise of oil prices, closing or damaging as much as they can Hormuz. And remember, Qatar is...
Yes, and I saw the video of it, by the way. Fucking brutal, dude. He did lay down that bike, and he took it like a champ, man. He took it like a champ. Fucking epic, good times, bro. I'm just glad that you're all right.
One of the biggest...
Just, road rash sucks. Trust me, road rash doesn't get much worse than that.
Borders of liquid gas.
Oh, you're alive.
So by attacking this country, it is more important for Iran to gain back the leverage over the energy market than the future relationship.
Now, that's a true question. So could the U.S. win a ground invasion, though? And the truth is probably not. Probably not. It would be it would be very hard. The only reason why we may get away with something like that is because of the amount of air support that we got. But still, at the same token, it's something that I'm not worth finding out. It's not worth finding out in general, but at least in my worldview, it's not. But
with Qatar, they believe that since Qatar will have no other option but to still be in good relationship with them, it is more important for them to damage the energy market.
The U.S.
Steve
strikes
you're
on
right.
Iran. Obviously, they're expanding that campaign, talking about the U.S. military. We know that they've now struck those bridges. They've struck and collapsed a...
Yes, we struck and collapsed 5 bridges.
A key tower, they say, over at a key port in Iran. How significant is all of that when you step back and take a look at the situation that, again, began with the start of Operation Epic Fury months ago?
What I think it is important, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a difference. Until now, the United States and Israel tried not to harm the basic infrastructure of the country, the economy, all the bridges, all the roads, all the train tracks, etc. That there was an attempt not to attack all these, and it was clear that this is a different stage. This is a new stage. By attacking infrastructure, civilian or dual usage army infrastructure, that is.
Now, right now, I'm waiting for him to basically talk about the response that Iran made and making the claim that they responded and hit one of our bases over there in Syria. And how truthful is that?
That is a different level.
I hope that they answer with actual knowledge behind it.
And I think this is still the beginning. But if we will see in the next coming days and weeks more and more attacks of Iranian infrastructure, not only military bases, not only nuclear facilities, then I think it is very important. I think it's a new stage. And we'll have to wait and see what would be the Iranian response. Because until now, the Iranians threatened that if they will be attacked, they will attack the energy infrastructure in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, which we have to know is very vulnerable. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But this is indeed, I think, a new stage.
As we look at this photo here, this was provided by Secretary Pete Hegseth showing the collapse of a tower there.
Real quick, before we get into him talking about that collapsed tower right there, we got my man Al Patterson sending in another 420, by the way, saying for the overtime. Yes, we did hit just an hour just now, so we are going to be going into a little bit of overtime today. So you know what they say about overtime? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Send in your freaking money. I very much appreciate the overtime pay, kind sir.
Now, it was posted on social media by Hegseth without really any explanation or anything of that nature. Now, of course, we know exactly what's.
No, I do not think China would intervene. The only thing that they would actually go at a full-scale war over at this point, like right now, would be in the regards to Taiwan. That's it.
Going on there. But as far as where we go from here, do you see the possibility of any kind of peace deal down the road as you're
and
looking
that's true
at
too,
this
Steve, but they're willing to wait.
Unfolding and a lot of
they're an
differences
interesting breed
between the U.S. and Iran right now as everything stands?
Well, I think we have to bear in mind that the term peace deal is understood very differently between people in the United States and indeed in the international community.
Yes, you as well, Charlie Rose. We always appreciate you hanging out with us.
And how it is being understood in Iran. Iran wants to gain time. They want to reconstruct everything they have. The meaning of a peace deal is not exactly that Iran would become a peaceful country. No, it means the cessation of hostilities, Iran making as little concession as they can, kind of like the MOU, only to regain power and to be again, to reflect their power all over the Middle East. However, I think that people in the United States and elsewhere in the international community understand it as, bringing back Iran to the community of nations, to the family of nations. I don't think that this is where this regime is going. This is not what they want. So I'm sorry to say, but I think that at this point of time, there is no good deal unless, we'll see a total capitulation from the Iranian side. But until now, we don't see it. So I think that at this moment,
there would have to be major concessions coming through with Iran. And that's what Trump is really trying to attempt right now. He's really trying to hammer them down to get them to wave the white flag and make real big concessions. And I don't really see a very good exit strategy for the United States right now. And that's our worry.
It's very difficult to see a peace deal in the sense that we would like to see it. Iran going back to be part of the international trade and international diplomacy, etc.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did have that meeting, and the major topic of discussion was actually what you're actually kind of talking about, because yes, did China agree to having the Strait open and all that stuff? Yes, they agree that it should, but that's not really what their main topic actually was. It kind of actually was in the regards of like what you're talking about. That's why you saw all those people, all those company executives, CEOs, all these people that were going with Trump with this, because it was to kind of negotiate that out a little bit and look how much influence that we got that provides for your economy. So, it's like a 3-ring ordeal that they're dealing with there. And truthfully, the only thing that Xi cared about during that whole meeting was really the topic of Taiwan. That's if you heard the Chinese reports and what their actual like translation of the way this whole thing went, all they really cared about was Taiwan. So, anyways, different priorities for like every country.
I don't see it happening unless something very, very surprising will happen.
And I do want to show you, I don't know if you can see this there on the bottom of your screen, but we always want to hear from the viewers at home and get their take on all of this. So all you have to do is scan that QR code on the bottom right-hand side of your screen if you want to vote, or go to livenowfox.com/connect and go to vote now, and you can actually sound off here. Nothing showing up just yet because we just posted this, but the question that we are posing to you is, what concerns you most about the U.S.-Iran conflict? And the options there, the war escalating even further, the safety of the U.S. troops.
On the escalation aspect, the one thing that I just hope that we absolutely do not do is put boots on the ground. Please. I'm just like praying for that.
Higher gas prices there, or the global economic impact. Now, obviously,
And I think Trump knows that would be a major risk.
All of those important, but if you do want to sound off, we're going to leave that on the bottom of your screen with the QR code. Also, you should bookmark that livenowfox.com/connect page, because that's where you can access all.
Now, okay, I want to see if they get into the aspect of the response that Iran made. I'm not willing to sit through 30 minutes of it. Here it is. Iran claims injuries after striking U.S. base in Syria. Now, this is what I wanted to see if they actually have the context to this.
Hopefully it will.
And of course, my final question always is going to be, what should we be watching for? What are you going to be watching for in the coming hours, days, weeks here as we see the situation there between the U.S. and Iran, but also Israel and Hezbollah?
So I think that on the Iranian theater,
I don't know why he brought up this this headline if he was not going to ask exactly that aspect. Anyways,
that is very important to see what exactly is being.
I'm sure they're going to talk about it.
We'll see
He just brought it up early. Damn it. Let me go ahead and fast forward a little bit here.
this response. How are they responding? Are we responding? Are we going into a next level? So this is the most important thing to see. I think that for the time being, it seems. I hope I won't be surprised to the worst. But at this moment, it seems like this is the main theater, and I think that as you can see, for now, Israel is not even involved in the Iranian theater. So it's mostly Americans. This is, I think, the developments that should be followed.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here, helping to break down all of the developments. There's so much happening there in the Middle East, and we're going to keep a close eye on it. Anything that we maybe missed, anything that you want to make sure to add here before I let you go?
I think that the bottom line is that whatever we're trying to do, at the end of the day, I think there's only one.
Okay. So they really weren't showing that aspect of the headline. So I think he does up here.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Here we go. When he leaves.
And I do want to pop this up on your screen as we continue to cover everything related to the U.S.-Iran conflict. This is from Iran International English. It says a senior Iranian official said Friday that any location used to launch attacks against Iran would become a legitimate target for retaliation, warning that if Iranian infrastructure were attacked, quote, no infrastructure would remain elsewhere in the region. Now, a member of Iran's Expedia.
So this is the aspect of like, yeah, we actually did some damage in Syria over there. And let me go ahead and bring this up. And let me go ahead and see here. Let me go ahead and find it. Sorry, it's going to take me a second. Let me go ahead and continue this real quick.
Council
Let
also
me
said
find
that
it.
decisions over the Strait of Hormuz rested with Iran and Oman, adding that countries from outside the region could not decide its future. Referring to outside involvement, he said that anyone seeking to do so would have their, quote, hand cut off. Now, he also addressed debate within Iran over diplomacy, saying some opponents of negotiations believed Iran should continue fighting until either it was destroyed or its enemies were defeated. But he said, quote, we cannot fight the world only with missiles, adding that Iran also had to confront what he called the, quote, arrogant world through, quote, logic and negotiation. So,
okay, so quickly, let me go ahead and bring this over, and I'm actually going to show you guys the screen again. Let me go ahead and find the correct one. It should be labeled that, right? Okay, good. Give me a second. Boom. Okay, so the base Iran claimed to have attacked today, which was early this morning, whatever, was Al-Tanf in southeastern Syria near the Jordan and Iraq border. However, Reuters reports that the U.S. has already withdrawn from Al-Tanf in February of 2026. So them making claims that they actually like killed people, the United States or anything like that is obviously false. More importantly, a Syrian military source told Reuters that today's attack occurred near Al-Tanf, but did not hit the base and caused no casualties or damage. Iran's IRGC is claiming it struck a U.S. Special Operations Command Center there, but Reuters says the claim has not been independently verified. So, no, them making the claim that they actually hit something and actually made some sort of damage to our base down there in Syria is bullshit, as per usual. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our next story here. Iran-U.S. conflict, drone planes used in combat, coming out 3 hours ago. It looks like they've got a little bit of video from CENTCOM as well. Let's go ahead and find out what's happening
here.
You're
just taking a look there at some footage that we have gotten in here as we're tracking the latest in the Middle East. The U.S. is keeping up the pressure on Iran, expanding its targets as the military continues its campaign against the regime. Madeline Rivera with Fox News has the latest from Washington. Good morning, Madeline. What can you share with us as this continues to develop this morning?
Yeah, well, the U.S. is expanding its pressure campaign against Iran. It began hitting targets around Bandar Abbas, which is this.
And no, we don't actually have major proof of that. There is some damage that they have made across the region. Yes, that has happened, but not to the extent that they're trying to make it sound.
Strategic port city near the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. has started hitting roads, bridges, and other infrastructure. And essentially what the U.S. wants to do is cut off the supply routes for the Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. They want to isolate the IRGC. And that's important because Bandar Abbas is key to whoever controls the Strait of Hormuz. And remember, this is all part of the United States campaign to try and remove and degrade Iran's ability to attack commercial ships traveling through that critical waterway. Iran has retaliated as well. They have launched missiles and drones targeting U.S. targets in the Gulf region. They've launched missiles and drones against Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. So Iran is not backing down. Despite all of this, the U.S. maintains that they still want to have diplomatic talks with Iran. We'll see how that goes. Christy.
Madeline, before I let you go here, Iran is signaling a willingness to negotiate. So is there any indication diplomacy could move forward with these military operations continuing, or at this point are both sides still really digging in?
Well, anything is possible because Iran does want the strikes to stop. That is objectively true. So anything is possible on a diplomatic level, and that's what Trump is actually hoping for. But how realistic is it? Maybe 50-50 chance?
Yeah, well, the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Iran still wants to do a deal. Pakistani negotiators, and remember, they have been a key mediator on all of this. They say they are not abandoning talks. And then you heard Vice President J.D. Vance tell a podcast host as well that military campaign, military action is one of the tools that the U.S. is keeping on the table as they try to get Iran, again, to make a deal, as they try to box Iran into a corner. So far, it has not proved very effective because, again, Iran still has not backed down. And one of the reasons why this might be the case is because the U.S. has always said that the leadership structure in Iran is very fragmented and that there are some parts of the regime that do want to make a deal. And then you have some hardliners as well who are sticking to their guns and want to continue these attacks in the Strait of Hormuz. So, again, the possibility is there for a diplomatic resolution. However, so far, what we were.
But that is the hard part, Steve. You're exactly right. We both do have a different definitions of a win. We need a full-on victory where a regime change happens or full-on concessions of their nuclear program. Those are major full victories. They just need to survive. That's it. You're very right.
Seeing is this ramped up military campaign, Christy.
And they've got the strait right there to be able to use that and that's really the only real leverage they really got.
I want to touch on something you mentioned, Madeline. How is the administration responding to these concerns from lawmakers who say the U.S. should prioritize diplomacy over expanding these military operations? Can you expand on yours just a little bit more?
Yeah, well, you'll probably hear from the White House what they've been saying all along is that, yes, they are trying to pursue diplomatic talks while at the same time trying to exert pressure on Iran by doing this military campaign. So I guess in their eyes, they're seeing that they're looking at it as if you can walk and chew gum at the same time, that you can pursue two parallel routes here, all with the same goal of trying to get Iran to come to the negotiating table. Again, the White House's goal, they say, is that they don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. There are so many other things here, of course, that kind of make these debates and conversations so much more complicated. But I think what you'll hear from the White House is that they are trying to pursue both of these routes as the White House says they want to negotiate from a position of strength, which is why they're pursuing this military action, Christy.
My last question for you, Madeline. With Iran launching attacks on several countries in the region, is there concern that this conflict could spread beyond Iran as well as the Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, in some ways it already has, right? You have seen Iran retaliate and launch missiles and drones against U.S. targets in the Gulf region. It has not progressed to a full-blown war in these countries, but certainly there are neighbors, allies that we have in that region that are being affected.
And listen, it really is a house of cards. This shit could all fall apart very quickly for anybody, really, in that aspect.
By Iran. So in some ways, you can see that this conflict has already started to bleed beyond Iran's borders. In fact, Kuwait said today that Iran hit a desalination plant in their country. And that's pretty significant because Kuwait, as a lot of Gulf countries, they don't have a lot of fresh water. So they rely on these desalination plants for their water supply. So the fact that Iran hit one of those plants in Kuwait is a pretty big deal, Christy.
A lot to watch here. Madeline Rivera, Fox News. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, as always.
You got it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we are wrapped up for the morning, man. I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough for hanging out with us, supporting the show the way that you guys do, hitting that like button, double tapping that screen, commenting, all of that stuff. It goes a long way. And thank you guys to the members that have signed up and the ones that send donations, all of that, man. I'm very honored to be able to do this Monday through Friday. So, of course, that concludes our week. But, of course, we do have members only. Speaking of members, we do have members only tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we don't discuss any of this craziness. We actually have a fucking good time. So, anyways, listen, make sure you guys be safe out there. Much love, honor, respect to everybody. God bless you guys. And we'll see you guys here. If I don't see you on members only, I'll see you on Monday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Much love to everybody.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges.